Hey Hermits, welcome back to my channel. My name is Dara and today we are going to be doing some bookshelf reorganization because I've done a tiny bit of book buying recently, which means I have quite a few stacks of books just scattered around the place that somehow I need to fit on my shelves. I've also been feeling recently like I'm just not inspired by my bookshelves. I'm not wanting to pick anything up off them. I'm just like opting for Kindle books and audiobooks instead. And while that's a perfectly valid life choice, one of my priorities for this year was to halve my physical TBR, or at least work in that direction. And so I'm thinking that if I arrange it so that it just looks more pleasing to the eye, then I'll be more inclined to spend more time reading some of my physical books. So I'm going to give you a little glimpse of the before so you know what we're working with. So I'm like stretching my arm as far as I can. So I have these three long shelves that sort of go along the length of that wall there. And then I also have this like sort of freestanding. Then I also have, like I said, some little stacks of books on top of it. And then I've got some stacks on the floor underneath my coffee table. And then I also have a whole bunch of things on my book cart. So I'm going to take everything off. And I think I'm going to arrange things by colour again. And I did that in the past and really enjoyed the look of that. But I do like to switch my bookshelves up every now and again. It's fun for me. I always say that buying books, reading books and organising books are three totally different hobbies. And like I'm a fan of all three. So yeah, like I said, I'm going to take everything off and rearrange by colour. On my little freestanding bookcase, I'm thinking that I'm going to keep my classics, keep my poetry, and keep my children's books. And then on top of it here, I think I'm going to have my favourites, so books that I've read and absolutely loved. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking for right now. I may change my mind, but we'll see. I'm gonna do this at a leisurely pace because I've been sick really recently. I've been under the weather, so I don't want to push myself too much and sort of like move backwards in terms of getting better. So I'm gonna spend, it's Friday night right now, I'm gonna spend some time tonight just taking things off the shelves, cleaning the shelves, all of that stuff, and then tomorrow I'll probably start putting things back on and just rearranging them so that they look like really pleasant and attractive to my eye. I think I'm going to take everything off my book cart and put those back on the shelves too, and then like go through and pick books that I'm excited to read over the spring and summer and put those on the cart. So that's the plan. I will keep you updated. I don't know if I'm going to film like the process of doing it like I did in the past, just because like I said, I'm not feeling my best. I just want to slouch around in pajamas and the light isn't the most amazing in here right now, but we'll see how I feel. I may just sort of finish giving you this rambly intro and then give you a tour once it's all done, but I'm just going to go with my mood on that front. And like I said, we'll see. Either way, hopefully by the end of the weekend, I will have stunning, delightful, appealing, attractive shelves filled with books I actually want to read. Okay, wish me luck. Okay, friends, I have a little update for you. So as you may be able to tell from behind, last night I spent some time working on the standalone bookcase. So we have at the bottom like kids' books from my childhood, then we have a shelf of classics, then we have poetry on this side and all-time favourites on this side, and I'm kind of liking that as my system for the little bookshelf. And then the empty bookshelves on the wall are going to be like the gorgeous colour-coded rainbow vibe shelves. Now I'm currently surrounded by stacks of books, so what I've done today is take everything off, give everything a good dust because this room gets so dusty, and I've sort of stacked them by colour. But what I've realised is that I 100% have too many books on the floor right now to go on these shelves. So I'm going to go through each of the piles, and first of all I'm going to pull out anything that I want to read imminently and put it on my book cart, and then I'm going to do another pass and just pull out anything that I am never drawn to, that I've read and don't want to read again, that I think I want to give to a friend, or anything that I'm just ready to release from the house, and try and just get some of the stacks down a little bit. And then once I've done that, I will put everything back up on the shelves. I'm not sure if I'm going to share like all of the unhauls with you in this video. I might if there aren't too many. If I think that there are going to be a lot, then I will just film another video, because I don't want this to be like 3 hours long. But like I said, I just wanted to give you a little update. So I'm going to go get myself another drink and start working through some of these piles. Okay, so the book cart is now stacked with things that I want to read imminently. I might talk you through those in a moment. I've already told you about the standalone bookcase, and then we have our shelves that are back to being color-coded. And I quite like it when books look a little bit inconsistent and mismatched, and like all of the sizes are different. And while I wanted to group together the colors, I didn't want to do like a gradient between shades, because I actually don't like the way that looks, especially when you have a lot of books that are kind of neutral colors. It sort of, I don't know, it just doesn't look as striking to me. So I'm really loving the vibes here. I think it's going to be much more appealing to pull books from this than the old layout, and especially because I have put together my trusty little book cart with things that I'm excited to read soon. And I didn't actually intend to do this in colour order too, but because I was just going through the stacks one at a time and putting them on here, that's what ended up happening. So we've got a real mixture of genres here. I'm not going to go through each individual book in this video, but we have some like family sagas, we have thrillers, we have more family sagas, we have some horror, we have magical realism, we have like a heist kind of situation, we have romance. Like there's just a little bit of everything here. And already I'm just itching to get reading. So shuffling your books around really does do that. So if you're ever feeling like you're in a slump, spending some time giving your book display a little bit of TLC really does wonders. Now I have a little stack here of things that I'm getting ready to unhaul, so I'm just going to flip the camera around and talk you through those too. Okay, so let's go through the stack of books that I'm going to be unhauling. First of all, we have The Long Shadow by Mark Mills, and this one came to me in a subscription box. It was in a box of stories, and honestly it just doesn't appeal to me. So it is about a man who had this difficult relationship with this boy at his school back in the day, and then I didn't really think about it again, and then fast forward to the future, he's trying to get an investor for something, and it turns out the person that he needs help from is this person he had this troubled relationship with at school. And I'm just not into any kind of story that involves like school bullying, which is what I'm getting from this, from the synopsis. I'm not particularly interested in just like male manly man stories. Like it's just not my like preferred area of reading. I don't necessarily think it sounds objectively bad, so I'm going to donate this, and I'm sure that someone else will really love it. I just think it's not something that I'm excited to read, and I have too many books on my shelves to keep hold of things that I'm not excited to read. Speaking of which, we also have The Rip by Mark Brandy, and this is another one from a box of stories. In fact, I think this came from my most recent box. And this, again, it's not my kind of story. So this is a very like dark tale that features a lot of substance abuse, and that is just something that I have no interest in reading about. It's something that pushes a lot of my buttons just based on some of the people that I grew up around, and it's not something that I'm interested in reading at all. So again, going to be donating that one. And then having a bit of a trend here. The next one is Nina X by Ewan Morrison, another Box of Stories book. I think this might have been from the first box that I ever got, and I stuck it on my shelf, but I've just never been drawn to it. And I believe it's like a dystopian sci-fi situation about this girl called Nina who has never really known society. She's never known what it's like to be raised in like a standard world. So she's been sort of raised in like a project facility. So I don't know if like some kind of social experiment was happening like in her childhood, but it just, I don't know, it doesn't, even the premise makes me feel uneasy. Like it doesn't sound like something that I want to read. Then we have Walking with Sausage Dogs by Matt Wyman, and this doesn't sound bad at all, but the reason that I want to unhaul this is actually because I want to give it to a friend. So one of my best friends has 2 sausage dogs who she loves more than life, and she's currently on maternity leave and looking for some reading material. So this seems like it's light-hearted, like it's fun, like it features her fur babies, so I'm going to send this to her. Then we have Life After Life by Kate Atkinson, and I actually read a chapter during my try a chapter challenge and decided to keep it. But since then, and it's been a couple of months, I just haven't been drawn to it. I haven't even considered it. And so I'm just going to let this one go. It's taking up a fair bit of room on my shelf, and it's something that I've owned for so many years. Like if I wanted to read it, I probably would have by now. I think it was like the subject matter was a lot more of interest to me back when I purchased it than it is now, because my reading tastes have just evolved. So I'm gonna let this one go with love. Next we have Milkman by Anna Burns, and it's funny, while I was doing my bookshelf reorganization, I had some like YouTube videos on in the background, and one of the booktubers that I was listening to was talking about this book, and she was giving an analysis of it that I haven't really heard before, and she pointed out some specific things that I hate in books, and I didn't know that this book had those things. So it's gonna go. It is gonna go. However, this is another one that I'm going to send to a friend, because I have a friend who is actually looking for some reading material right now. She lives abroad, so it's quite tricky for her to get books written in English over there. So I'm going to send her this one because she loves anything historical. She loves anything a little bit melancholic, and she also loves anything set in Ireland, which this is all of those things. So I'm going to send that on to one of my friends. Next we have Little Fires Everywhere. This is another one that I sampled during my try a chapter challenge, and again I decided to keep it. Again, I haven't been drawn to it, and I actually had this one on the top shelf of my TBR cart ever since doing that challenge, but I still have not been drawn to it. So I'm gonna let it go, and if I ever feel compelled to read this book, I will pick it up from the library. Then we have The Improbability of Love by Hannah Rothschild, and I think this one was a charity shop find a while back, and it's like perfect condition, the spine hasn't been broken, but honestly there's just something about it that makes me not want to read it, and I cannot tell you what it is. Like there is no objective reason, but I just don't want to read it. I just don't want to read it. And I love romance, so I don't know why that is, but again, I'm just gonna pass it on to a friend who I think might get some enjoyment out of it. Then I am going to let go of 7 Years of Darkness by Yo Jung Jung. This is one that I picked up for Readathon, and I was actually really excited about this because I love thrillers, I love anything crimey, and I started reading it, and I just don't like it. I don't like the vibe of it, and I think it's like the character dynamics in particular. I read a few chapters, and it centers this boy whose father was put in prison for murdering a young girl, and everybody has turned against this young boy, like everyone in his family, everyone at any school he goes to. And the first few chapters are just basically listing out all of these different instances where he was abandoned, where he was bullied, where he was abused, and I just didn't want to read more about that. I did not want to read more about that. It didn't do what I would usually expect a thriller or mystery to do, which is to set the scene and to make it exciting and compelling and like sprinkle seeds that makes you want to unravel what happened. It was just more sort of like, here's some more doom about this poor boy's life. And like, that's just not for me. I'm actually going to give this to my grandma because she also loves crime books, she loves thriller books, she loves mysteries, and she also loves things that are a little bit grimmer and a little bit dark. Like, she reads a lot of Scandinavian crime novels, which I think have that kind of energy to them too. In fact, the opening chapters of this, despite being like clearly Korean and set in Korea, the sort of, I don't know, the scene that was set, the vibes, the like all of that darkness really reminded me of Scandinavian thrillers. So I think she might enjoy it. And I know this author is really well regarded and has a decent backlist, so she'll really appreciate it if I can introduce her to someone new. And then last but not least, I am going to let go of After You by Jojo Moyes. And I actually love everything else that I've read by Jojo Moyes. This is the like the second book that so it follows Me Before You, which I did really enjoy. But to be honest, it felt like a complete story. And I know that now there's this book and then I think there's a third one too. And the more I've thought about it, the more I'm like, do you know what? I just don't need to read those. It felt like I got the conclusion that I needed with that first book. I don't need to continue on. Added to that, I haven't heard the best things about this. Like, I'm gonna leave this world alone and I'm gonna donate this. So that's all from me today. Thank you for joining me. It always gives me so much joy to just spend some time with my books, remind myself of some of the things that I owe, and reorganize them so they look nicer. If you've enjoyed this video, then I would love for you to drop me a comment and let me know that. If you've seen anything that I've sort of scanned over that you really recommend I pick up imminently, then let me know that too, because I'm always looking for some help in picking what I read. I'm not always the best at just making decisions when it comes to picking my books, because I don't know if you find this, like anyone who like runs their own business or has a job where you're in a position of leadership, but because I spend so much of my day-to-day life making decisions, when it comes to outside of work, I just sometimes can't bring myself to do it. Like, if someone asks me what I want for dinner, I literally cannot tell them, ever. And the same is true, like, if I have to pick a film to watch or a book to read, like, most of the time I'm just like, does someone tell me? So if you have any recommendations based on what you've seen that I own, drop in the comments and let me know. Anyway, I'm gonna go and I will see you very soon in my next upload. Bye for now.